Open-mouthed, they watched it soar past. With a gurgling laugh, Augusta pounced, grabbed the ball, and raced away down the slope. Flashing Alathea conspiratorial grins, Mary called after Augusta, Alice cheered, and both set out in pursuit. Alathea remained on the terrace, the warmth suffusing her, owing nothing to the bright sunshine. A movement beneath a large oak caught her eye. Her stepmother, Serena, and her father, the Earl, waved from the bench where they sat indulgently watching their children. Smiling, Alathea returned the wave. Looking back at her step-siblings, now headed in a wild melee towards the lake, she drew in a long breath, then, lips firming, turned back into the library. Crossing to the desk, she let her gaze dwell on the tapestries gracing the walls, the paintings in their gilded frames, the leather-bound, gilt-encrusted spines lining the shelves. The long library was one of the features of Morwellan Park, principal seat of the Earls of Meredith. Morwellans had occupied the park for centuries, from long before the earldom's creation in the 14th. The present gracious house had been built by her great-grandfather, the grounds expertly landscaped under her grandfather's exacting eye. Regaining the large carved desk, hers for the last 11 years, Alathea looked at the letter lying on the blotter. Any chance that she would crumple in the face of such adversity as the letter portended was past. Nothing, no one, was going to steal the simple peace she'd sacrificed the last 11 years of her life to secure for her family. Gazing at Wiggs's letter, she considered the enormity of what she faced, too practical not to recognize the difficulties and dangers. But it wasn't the first time she'd stood on the lip of the abyss and stared ruin, financial and social, in the face. Picking up the letter, she sat and reread it. It had arrived in reply to an urgent missive from her, dispatched post-haste to London 3 days before. 3 days before, when her world had, for the second time in her life, been rocked to its foundations. While dusting her father's room, a maid had discovered a legal document stuffed inside a large vase. Luckily, the girl had had the wit to take the paper to the housekeeper and cook, Mrs. Figgs, who had immediately bustled into the library to lay it before her. Satisfied she'd missed nothing in Wiggs's reply, Alathea set his letter aside. Her glance strayed to the left desk drawer, where the wretched document at the heart of the matter lay. A promissory note. She didn't need to read it again. Every last detail was etched in her brain. The note committed the Earl of Meredith to pay, upon call, a sum that exceeded the present total worth of the earldom. In return, the Earl would receive a handsome percentage of the profits realized by the Central East Africa Gold Company. There was, of course, no guarantee such profits would ever materialize, and neither she nor Wiggs, nor any of his peers, had so much as heard of the Central East Africa Gold Company. If any good would come of burning the note, she would happily have built a bonfire on the Aubusson Rog, but it was only a copy. Her dear, vague, hopelessly impractical father had, entirely without understanding what he was about, signed away his family's future. Wiggs had confirmed that the note was legally sound and executable, so if the call was made for the amount stipulated, the family would be bankrupt. They would lose not only the minor properties and Morwellan House in London, all still mortgaged to the hilt, but also Morwellan Park and everything that went with it. If she wished to ensure that Morwellans remained at Morwellan Park, that Charlie and his sons had their ancestral home intact to inherit, that her stepsisters had their come-outs and the chance to make the marriages they deserved, she was going to have to find some way out of this, just as she had before. Absent-mindedly tapping a pencil on the blotter, Alathea gazed unseeing at the portrait of her great-grandfather, facing her down the long length of the room. This wasn't the first time her father had brought the earldom to the brink of ruin. She'd faced the prospect of abject poverty before. For a gentlewoman reared within the elite circle of the haut ton, the prospect had been, and still was, frightening, all the more so for being somewhat beyond her ken. Abject